call it to order.
I sure will. Okay, then I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. If everyone could please join me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
To the
States
flag
of
of the United
America
States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
and to the
one
republic for which
nation,
it stands, one nation, under
under
God,
nation,
with
under
liberty.
God,
indivisible, with liberty and
indivisible,
justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Ron, we don't have any presentations for this evening?
Well, I'm going to add a presentation. We have a special guest with us
Okay.
here tonight. And I think, and our special guest is a gentleman by the name of Alessandro. I believe it's Ferrari.
Yeah,
Did I
that's
say it?
right.
Okay.
Who era? Yeah.
Alessandro came to us from Italy this year. I know he played soccer. Did you play volleyball, Alessandro?
Yeah, I played volleyball too. Yes.
Volleyball and soccer. And, you know, and otherwise, is a typical, exchange student. He gets to experience American life, American school system. And I guess, Alessandro, what I'd like to do is, you're seeing the same, hopefully the same face as we are. But board members, if you could just go around and introduce yourselves to Ali, that would be appreciated.
Alejandro, hi, I'm Dawn Miller. I'm the board.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi,
Tony?
Jim, Tony. Okay.
¿Cómo está, Alessandro? This is Tony Nicotera.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
My pleasure too.
And Alexandra, my name is Jim Deaver. I'm right here.
Nice to meet you. Okay.
Go ahead,
Should I
Chris.
present myself or?
Hi,
Yeah,
Alexandra.
Chris?
This is Anthony. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you.
Go ahead,
Ron?
Todd.
Yep. Alessandro, hi. It's Ron Curtelli. Nice to
Hi.
meet you.
Todd?
Good evening, Alessandro. My name is Todd Nelson. It's very nice to meet you. I'm glad that you got to experience America. I hope everything went well for you, and I hope you enjoyed your time here in Sauquoit Valley.
I enjoy a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, we certainly enjoyed having you here. And obviously, what I like about the foreign exchange program is, yeah, you guys come here and get a lot from America. But we certainly get a lot from the exchange students that's come in the past. And I think the same holds true for you. So we certainly appreciate you sharing your time with us and sharing a little piece of Italy with us here in America. So what I'd like to do right now is just quiz you a little bit here. If you could, tell us a little bit about your experience in the United States and your experience with us here in Sauquoit Valley.
I had an amazing experience in America, especially I arrived in Sauquoit, and even if it's a super small community, I super love the people right here in this town, in this small community. I played soccer and I started to make friends really early, especially because I'm kind of pretty good at soccer, so
Yes, you are.
I had a good satisfaction to play soccer, and I make a lot of friends. Even with volleyball, if I never played volleyball before, I had so much fun, and we won sectional, so it was a great experience that too. The teacher were all super kind, good person with me, so thank you so much to Sauquoit High School.
Well, we certainly apologize for the type of closure that you had here, that we had to end school as you typically know it on March 16th. And you had to do a lot of your schooling, much like what we're doing right now. But tell us, how is your family doing in Italy?
Thanks God, my family is all healthy. We had a lot of friends, family friends that were effective. My family is healthy. My city were really bad at that time when it was like February and March. It was really bad.
How are they doing now as a country? They on the right side of the thing?
Yeah, they're almost reopening everything, and with some restrictions like a mask, or like the restaurant you cannot take away, but you have to sit at the table free. But it started to get better,
Good.
fortunately.
Good. Well, we're hopefully trending that way too. All right, quiz time now. What was your favorite place to visit in New York State?
I love two places. The city, I really like the city because in Italy I live in a city, so I love New York City. I would love to live over there in my life. And the second place is around here. I love the Green Lakes. It's a really nice place.
We do have some nice parks and certainly some nice state parks. How about now? Did you get outside of New York State? Did you see any other parts of the country?
Yeah, I went to Minnesota because for a vacation, because my middle brother, have done an exchange student in Minnesota in 2010. So I went to visit all his families. So then they brought me to Seattle and of course Minneapolis in Minnesota.
Very nice. Did you go to the large mall out there? It's a Mall of America.
Yeah, the Mall of America. Yeah.
It's big. Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge.
Cool.
Huge.
All right. What was your so I guess what would you say is your favorite thing about being in America?
Absolutely, how the person are open, because you're used to a lot of culture and a lot of different type of people from all over the world. So the people are more, I don't know, kind and open to accept me, and I don't know, they were all friendly with me. That's what I really like about America.
Well, and I'll admit, we're not perfect here. So, what was your least favorite thing about America?
The pizza.
The pizza?
Yeah. No, I'm joking. I don't know. Maybe the distance between like everything. In Italy, it's all more close to each other, like school, sports. I can go with my bike. I can walk. In America, you need a car. You need a vehicle to go somewhere because the distance is really big between different things.
Well, you're kind of in rural America, but there's certain parts of America that you really need your vehicles to get to places. But no, speaking of and your excitement about New York City certainly speaks to you can get to a lot of places and see a lot of things and do it by walking and or public transit. But tell us if you would what's next for you. You told me yesterday that you go back to Italy to finish your final year, your 5th year of school in Italy. So what does your 5th year of school look like in Italy?
I'm gonna have my senior year because we have 5 years of high school in Italy. So I'm gonna do my 5th, and after that probably I'm gonna try to go in medicine university for become a doctor. My dream is to become a sport doctor. Maybe we'll see what the future brings. And yes, I have 1 more year of high school when I go back. Hopefully it's gonna be normal, but we don't know yet how it's gonna be the school over there. They don't know yet.
Good. I guess thoughts and what was your favorite thing about Sauquoit Valley? About being at school here?
I love play sports with my friends. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Keep the kids all together a lot. Even like I never played football, but I went to a lot of games, and that's a really good experience. I think all the sports I don't know, the drama club is stuff that keep the kids together a lot.
Was our weather similar to your weather in Italy? Or are you a little more southern? Kinda.
The winter is a little bit the winter is a little bit shorter in Italy. Like
Yeah.
I never had snow in April, May, but yeah, we have the same. So like now over there it's spring. We're gonna have summer soon, but it's like here, it's the same.
And probably one of your most frustrating things as a student here at Sauquoit Valley is that the superintendent doesn't call enough snow days.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm sure. Hey, we used 3 of them this year. I think we would have
Yeah.
used more if we didn't have the closure, but we certainly had some nasty weather in March. Board, is there any questions or anybody else here? Any thoughts or things you want to share with Ali before he goes?
Allie, did Rotary cancel the trip around the United States? Is that why you're leaving?
Yeah. Yes, they did. They delayed every
They
single
canceled
trips. Yeah, and especially next year they didn't decide yet. But Sauquoit, the international Rotary didn't decide yet. But Sauquoit Rotary is not gonna have exchange students next year. This district, the 7150.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's sad, but and for safety,
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When did you
What
arrive?
was your
You arrived
favorite
in August?
class? Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Tony.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Did you arrive in
Oh, no, I
August
just
here?
wanted to know what his favorite class here was that you took. What was your favorite subject?
Okay, I'm gonna answer first.
Okay.
Okay. My favorite subject is probably physics because I really
Physics?
like
Yeah.
and I really love Mr. E. I like him.
Oh, okay.
He's a good teacher. He was my coach, my volleyball coach too, so I love him.
Oh,
But
good.
I love pre-calc too. I love food science, US history. I love all of
Yeah.
that. But my favorite is probably physics. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tony.
And
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I arrived in the US on the 27th of August. Yeah, last
Oh, okay.
August. 11th. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's almost 10 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
What do you look
Allie,
forward to? Yeah, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. What do you look forward to when you get back to Italy? Don't tell me the pizza only.
I mean, a lot of things. The family, the friends. It's a weird feeling right now because I'm really excited to see my friends, to return in my city and all my own stuff. But I'm so sad to live here. Seems to live here forever. I have a new life. It's like to live a life to restart another one, like I did in August. So it's a mixture of feeling that it's really hard right now. But I'm excited to see home, my family and friends. Yeah.
Allie, how would you compare the soccer here in the United States to the soccer over in Italy?
Oh, so on the soccer, for me, there is no way. I think it's different because we play the sports for the whole year. So like I play soccer from August to June. And it's a lot of more practice. You don't play only 3 months a year like the kids do here. And if they want to play out of the school in the US, they have to pay a lot of money for play soccer. And I don't think that's really right because not every kids have a lot of money to play soccer out of the school in a club. And in Italy, we play everywhere. Like you find kids that play in the street. We play in a church club all together, and it's kind of free. You know what I mean? They have more opportunity to play. That's But I think the most important things of soccer it's for the girls. In Italy, girl soccer it's not a big thing. That's why if you saw the World Cup was won by the US because you have a lot of more opportunities for the girl to play soccer in the US.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that insight.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, I think at this time, Alessandro, You're more than welcome to hang on to the board meeting here, but your last night in America has certainly got to be more thrilling than staying on with us. But thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share a little bit about you. And we thank you so much for, your visit to the where'd you go?
Oh, there he is.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
I lost you. No, we thank you so much for your time here with us at Sauquoit Valley. And, we certainly hope we've made it feel like home to you, which it sounds like it does. But naturally, you miss home too, and it's going to be nice to see your parents. So I wish them continued good health. I wish you good health and much best of luck in your future endeavors. So I think you have a very bright future, and thank you for sharing your time with us, because we certainly gained something from you too.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to enjoy this meeting and have my best year of my life in Sauquoit. Thank you.
Enjoy the evening with your friends here.
Okay.
Good luck.
Good
Good luck.
Bye.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye, Ali.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for giving some time for that. I appreciate that. And Michelle, thank you for tipping me off on that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Special young man. Okay, Don.
All right, we're all set, Ren. All right, then we'll move on for public to be heard. Do we have any comments in the?
I do not have anybody in the chat room
Okay.
at this time. I was a little tardy hitting the record button, but Derek probably had it recording. But I just want to let you know we are being recorded. I'm supposed to let you know that.
All right. Students to be heard. I'll check back to see if there's anything in the chat room.
Yep.
Okay, Board of Education Subcommittee reports.
Okay, no reports in the subcommittee?
Okay, Superintendent's report.
Yes, we have a number of things here. First of all, the board member attendance at graduation. That's an ever fluid situation. We have not finalized plans for graduation. With the new regulations of 150 people in attendance, we're really trying to get that to fit. The graduates would really want to be together as a class. They want to do it outside. We're trying to put options together that we can try to do that given the parameters that we have right now. There's the opportunity that could grow between now and June 26th when that starts, the rule of 150 in attendance for large gathering. But if it's okay with you guys, we may limit or just not even have you come to the graduation so that we can spare as much of the space for the attendees and their families. I know you do like to attend, and we love to have you there. But I may make you guys sacrifice your seats so that we can allow as many of the attendees as we can for the kids.
Ron, if you need help, Benny, with, policing parking lots, or even,
Okay.
if, I physically can't, obviously, I wouldn't want to attend. I would, like you said, make room for the
Right.
kids. But if you need help to do anything, security, whatever, I'd be more than happy to help out.
If we have room, I may ask
Okay,
President, Vice President, if we have that room to come. But yes, for that other help, thank you.
Yeah.
That's appreciated.
Absolutely, not a problem.
So I think,
Ron,
I'm
Yeah.
the same here.
okay,
I'll help you. Any help you need, I'm
Thank
there.
thank you.
yeah, Ron, this is ironically the first year I was able to attend due to multiple graduations.
Yes,
But any help that you need, and I'm more than willing and fine with giving up my seat to any family member or graduate. So
thank
anything
you.
you need from me, I'm happy to do.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Same here too.
Thank you. The second part of that is Board of Education members awarding diplomas. I think that's a moot point. If I'm going to, Taylor, who gets to attend, that won't occur this year. The next thing.
We do have Michelle though.
Yes, Michelle, I would expect her to attend.
Yeah.
Yes,
Is there a possibility, could I give Victoria her diploma?
yes. I don't see why not.
Sure.
Okay.
I can't shake her hand, give her a hug, or hand her diploma, but you can.
Okay. Thank you. And I can help out with anything too.
Thank you. Board of Education meeting calendar. You should have received that draft from Marie to look that over. We'll put it on the 23rd agenda to adopt unless you have any discrepancies with that. And I do appreciate your flexibility with my travel schedules in early July as I help my son move from New York to Texas in the first week of July. So that gives me some time to do that, get him there and get back to here. So the 14th actually would be a good date for myself. So thank you.
Bring us in.
8th grade moving up ceremony is June 15th at 6 p.m. Well, actually, I think they're going to have people arrive at 5:45. That will be kind of the drive up variety. So Pete's Mr. Madden has set it up to have a number of people attend in different time blocks. They'll come up. They'll be allowed to get out of the car, take a picture, get any certificates that they have or any awards maybe that they've earned, and then they'll get in their cars and leave. We'll bring the next car in and do that. And there will be just maybe just the core 8th grade teachers there, but we have to be mindful of the 10-person rule. So we'll try to certainly stay within that. And I think on June 16th, doing a similar thing is the 4th grade ceremony. So they'll be driving up, get their certificates, and then moving on. I would take this, and Craig Manderville, our transportation supervisor, wasn't able to be here, but he did share with me, we got our report from the New York State Department of Transportation on our bus inspections. And we had a 100% passing rate on our buses this year with zero defects. Couple of minor things, but that didn't cause us to have to fail a bus. But our mechanics did an outstanding job, and the people that are behind us certainly starts with our transportation supervisor, Craig Manderville, our bus dispatcher, Linda Luthhauser, in certainly getting things in order for DOT inspections. But the heart and soul of the work comes from our mechanics. Wayne Inglis has been a mainstay in our mechanics bay here for he's got to be approaching 30 years. An outstanding mechanic and an even better person. We have a gem there that I know at some point he will retire. I think when his last grandchild leaves the district, he might leave too. So those will be big shoes to fill. But there was some transition in our bus garage, and Wayne was a champion during that whole time. There were times where he was the only guy there until we could get a second person in. But so hats go off to Wayne and his efforts in keeping that going. Certainly before his retirement, we had Mike McKinney here helping out. When Mike retired, we did get a bus driver. Fortunately, Brian Acey is a mechanic as well. He's been driving bus for us. We transferred him over here in the kind of the mid-spring here or early spring into the mechanics realm, and he and Wayne have done a super job during this closure. Actually, I had to tell those guys, I really need you to go home. They had a lot of work they wanted to do, and their initiative and energy is endless. And I do appreciate this, and getting 100% on there. Yeah, it's a score, but I think it speaks volumes for the effort that Wayne and Brian have put in, and certainly Craig now in his new role as a transportation supervisor. And I think and there's one more guy I want to thank, and he's a retired mechanic that we had, Chuck Strong. He did offer to come in. We did call him to come in once in a while and to help Wayne when he was by himself, to try to, when things started to stack up a little bit or we had to get ready for DOT inspections and could use an extra hand. He did agree to come in and flex his schedule a little bit to give us some hours in the garage. So, at least he's familiar with the process and certainly familiar with our garage. And Chuck did a nice job filling in and helping out too. So thank you for giving me the time to thank those people for an outstanding job. And our transportation department has come a long ways. And certainly in the years, I know when I started here, we were in a little bit tough shape with DOT, and these guys have really turned it around. And we've been in the 90% range for the last several years, and it's all attributed to our mechanics and certainly to Steve Schreck and now Craig Manderville in our bus garage. So their leadership has helped turn that around.
Ron, is it possible that we can invite Wayne in to thank him publicly at one of our upcoming meetings? I think it's a tremendous accomplishment, and I think we all know with the transition there, he was a stalemate there. He went through the worst of times with us and was always there. Anytime I walked by that bus garage, that man was there working.
Yep.
I don't know if he would ever come in, but to invite him in, Don.
I think he would. I don't know if we get him on a format like this, but Tony, please don't let us forget that. Absolutely. I think we should bring him in. If there's a time we can get together, albeit if we have to separate a little bit, but if we could space and have a meeting, that would be awesome. So please don't let me forget that, and we'll definitely get him in. So
thank you.
Thank you.
And I think, we recognize student athletes that do well at the state and sectional level. I think a certificate on behalf of the Board of Education that we could present to the Transportation Department as a whole, that they could maybe put in a frame and put up there, I think would be appropriate as well. I would just like to formally recognize their efforts and congratulate them on an outstanding achievement.
Good idea.
I echo that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
a
great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Last thing I have on our superintendent's report, I know I alluded to this a little bit via email, but I did want to bring up a fundraising concern that was shared with me back in late April with a parent of a senior. Quickly, I'll give you some background. The students, when they enter high school, they can start fundraising for, basically it's for their senior year. They do raise money, kind of for the class, but each kid, the efforts that they put into fundraising, they get to earmark that money for whatever their expenses are. So, if you fundraise through the years and let's say you accumulate, $600, that $600 you have kind of as fundraising credit that you can put towards senior activities, things like prom, senior trip, yearbook, graduation announcements, cap and gown. There's other things that I know that they present at the senior parent meetings that are approved that they could use that money for. So kids that choose to fundraise, obviously that put an effort in, that's less money out of the pocket that they ask of their parents or they have to come up with themselves. Kids are not forced to fundraise, and if they don't fundraise and they want to do things like the senior trip or go to prom, and they then just end up paying out of pocket. Well, this year, obviously, with COVID-19, things were different. There were certain senior events that they could not use their money for because they had to be canceled or postponed. In this particular case, this, the parent that I spoke with and had been in correspondence with for the better part of the last month here is requesting that monies that were raised for these specific events that have been canceled, she's asking that they are requesting that those monies be returned to the kids that fundraised it, as opposed to just having perhaps the class deciding, hey, we want to do something for the whole class and use that fundraising money for that, which technically it is the money of the class of 2020. However, this year we understand things are different. So her request is that this money be refunded, because people that paid out of pocket, we did refund them their money for the senior trip. The senior trip costs like $619, I believe. So if they paid $619, they got that money refunded. If they raised 400 of that, they would have gotten probably 219 of that is still remain. They would have got 400 that they would have got back that they paid out of pocket. 219 still kind of sits in the class fund. This is not the school's money. It doesn't go into school general fund. It's the class of 2020's money. And technically it's their discretion of what you can do with it. So her request is, I say again, is she's asking that money that her daughter in this case, and I would say anybody, it wouldn't just be for one student. She's requesting that money that would have been spent for the trip, would have been spent towards prom, something that she would have spent that money on, be returned to her for basically for their use, because they weren't allowed to use it for the intended purpose of it. So I open the floor to the board. Any thoughts on on that request. Typically, that money, I'll just back up, typically any leftover money usually stays with the class. I think the class will oftentimes vote to bequeath the next class coming up, and then that class will then use that to buy maybe something they get to the school of some sort. I know in the past the senior class has donated some money towards this, the electronic sign. And I think they do that. They pass it on to the next class because these officers in this year's senior class have graduated. And they may leave them with an idea of, hey, this is what we would like to do for the class. But at least the junior class now becoming the senior class, they have officers in the district that can act on that and basically honor that request from the graduating class. So I turn it over to you guys.
How much money is involved? How much money are we talking about? Like, any idea?
I don't know exactly what the student has in their account, but basically money that would have been spent for senior trip or senior prom, something that's been canceled that they can't use that money for. So whatever that equals, that's what they get. Now, let's say the trip is $619, which it is, but they've only raised like $200. They wouldn't get $619, they would get $200. That's what they raised towards it. The other they should have gotten back if they paid cash for it. They should have gotten that back already.
So the senior class has how much money?
Hi,
I don't know what they have total monies. It's just reimbursing those people or refunding those people that actually fundraise, because this money wouldn't go to people who didn't fundraise. It would just be going back. I was going to use it for the trip, didn't get to take the trip. I'd like that amount of money I was going to put towards the trip, I'd like back in a refund is basically the request.
I don't know, given the circumstances this year on, I think we should leave it up to the student. If they would like a refund, I think we should honor that. If they would like to leave it into the class fund and give it to the next class coming in, I think we should get opportunity to make that decision.
Okay.
I would agree
I
with
think
Dawn.
also because of the
I agree.
I agree with that as well.
Right.
You know, some students may
Give
want to
class-
leave it, they might not have a lot, but if you work hard and that was your goal, then I would hope that they would take that, I'm thinking, and use it towards college expenses or, you know.
I'm sure they would. I'm sure they'd appreciate that, yes. And I know in this case they would.
I just would like to ask some questions. Number one is, I think you said it at the beginning that it's almost like credit. Jim, I don't know if you can mute your phone or mute your computer because there's some feedback coming from your computer. But I think, Ron, you had mentioned that it is like credit. So if the trip is $600 and I've raised $500 through the fundraising, then I don't have to pay the full $600. I get to use $500 of that toward the senior trip, and I have to pay the difference. I understand the circumstances this year. I understand Michelle's email that she sent to us all. I definitely sympathize with that. I do have a concern that we did contact our school attorney, and they did give us an opinion on this. And in that opinion, I think it differs to what we just talked about. But I just struggle a little bit with that. Does the senior class have to complete a fundraising request form that we require all groups in our school to fill out?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, they should, yes. I don't have the form in front of me, but they would have to follow the same types of rules, just so that we're not, we have 4 organizations doing a fundraiser at the same time. It helps with the calendar of that.
The way that the project is presented, and this is presented to the parents as well as the students at the senior meeting, in the way that it's presented to these students, and that's why I, sent that email to you folks. And my daughter has nothing coming back, so it doesn't make any difference to me. So I want you to understand that. But the way that it's presented to those kids and to the parents is that whatever they raise will be obviously more of a benefit to each individual because they will not owe that remaining amount toward their senior trip. So the more that that child raises, the less they're going to owe on the senior trip. So I feel that in essence, if they're choosing to go on that senior trip, they're going to obviously try to go out there and sell more and more and more so they don't have to come up with that money. Okay. The one thing I'm struggling a little bit with is whether or not that money could be used towards something again for these seniors, whether it be toward their reunion in the future or, you know, some other activity that goes toward these seniors, the 2020 class. That's what I'm thinking. That's just a thought in my head.
And
Sense of what
typically that's,
money?
go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, do we have a sense of what these kids want to do with the money? With their money? I mean, I think that would be
Right.
you know, determine what, you know, what ends up happening with this.
Well, no, not at this time. And typically what would happen, the only money they would usually be talking about at this point in time is any monies that's left over. So let's say COVID didn't happen. Let's say they went on the senior trip. They had the senior prom. They paid for the yearbook. They paid for all the senior expenses that they could with the fundraising money that they had, and what they didn't have, they paid out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Any money's then left over, that's what usually goes as a gift, or perhaps they could save for a reunion, or if that's what they chose that they wanted to do with the money. So this is kind of a separate issue of, this is typically money that the senior class wouldn't have anyways. And you know, from the beginning, I guess I've looked at it, and I think I shared this with you in a very formal approach, and just wasn't sure we had the mechanism to give money back. Hence, I contacted our legal, our lawyers on that and get their opinion. And that's, you know, and that's probably maybe the key word is in their opinion that this money is to be used for the purposes that it was intended for. In other words, I go out door to door and fundraise and say, hey, I'm raising money for my senior class so that, you know, for a yearbook, for a senior trip. People, oh yeah, I'll do that. I didn't go and say I'm raising money so I can buy myself books at college, or so I can buy a new set of sneakers or things like that. And if I was going to do that, then I would hope I would express that so that person can say, all right, looks like you could use a new pair of sneakers. I'll support that. You know, but in fairness, as I now try to look and just take this all in, you know, the intent was, yes, I'm raising money for it. The intent was pure of why they raised the money. The ability to spend that money was lost. So really we're right. What's left over, that money is separate than this money that we're talking about. Now, if the senior class says, no, we don't agree that we should give a refund, if it was for the class, then yeah, that pot of money would be there. But, you know, so that's what we're talking about here, and that request being, let's refund what they would have spent.
So Ron, I'm a little confused because one, I don't know why we're discussing it if it's not our decision. If it's up to the senior class officers, and if they want to refund the money, then why we don't have an opinion and we don't have a stance on it.
Well,
but if you're
yes and no. I brought it to your attention because I have taken the approach from the attorney's point of view. You know, and that's you know, I looked in it. I can't necessarily, I guess, ignore that. I wanted you guys to be well aware of that if this something different's going to happen, you're well aware of why. You know, I could have not have ever, you know, and we could have just said, you know what, let's do this. Maybe that's a sensible thing to do. I don't, you know, I like I said, I kind of took the formal approach. I was back in my head, I'm thinking, I don't think we can do that with fundraising money. You know, so I guess I'm saying now, maybe if I look at it in hindsight to say, well, these really are special circumstances, which I recognize in the beginning, but I just didn't feel technically we could do that. Yes, the attorneys does speak to their opinion in saying that money should be used, and I think they use our policy for educational or school service purposes. but policy doesn't speak to, well, what if you can't do those things? So that's where I guess I've hung my hat. If we're going to change from that, or at least my standpoint, that's what I've expressed to this parent. So they did ask me to share this concern with you as a board, so that's why I'm sharing it, and getting your thoughts on it. And if you feel that, hey, yeah, that's, I guess if you felt concretely that we want to, even though it's an opinion from the attorney, we want to go with that and stick with that. The sense I'm getting is let the senior class decide what to do with that money.
My only other concern on that is the precedent that we may be setting. It is coronavirus, and it affected the whole class this year. But what happens next year if a senior breaks their leg and they can't go on their senior trip? So now the precedent has been set that student raised $250. They didn't get to go on the senior trip because they broke their leg and they weren't able to go. Now we have to refund $250 because you did it this year for the COVID. So I'm a little, I do have some concerns. I also have empathy for the seniors. My son is a senior in college and he had lots of things canceled on him. And I empathize with all the students that this is a once in a lifetime thing, but I am concerned from a board's perspective of setting a dangerous precedent and going against some legal advice.
I think that this is different, though. These guys have had absolutely nothing this year. They had nothing. Their school year ended in the beginning of March, and they've had nothing to celebrate their senior year. So I think that this is where you're getting this influx of people being concerned about things, and I can completely understand that. So I think that we have to be sensitive to that. And I think that this is an unusual year, and we have to take that into consideration.
Quite possibly we could review the policy to see if it needs to kind of cover unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, I would just reflect I would reflect what Todd says too. Does it just have to do with the money they raised in the senior year, or is this the money that they raised through their 4 years?
It's through the 4 years.
Okay, so it's everything. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like, it's the compassionate and sort of like fair thing to do, but the issues that surround it in terms of precedents are, this essentially says this is your money. It's not a part of.
Right.
I can see down the road there being like, hey, look, you recognize that this is my money, and if we do it for one student who requests it,
right,
we probably should do it for every student. It would to just do the one that has requested. We would have to make a public statement to everybody saying that anybody and everybody can request. Okay, number one. And I don't know. It's just I don't see it as an easy thing to. If there's a way to kind of cover our bases so that we're not establishing precedents, and then in the future classes would know that the money that you raise is the class's money and it's not an individual's money. This accounting is sort of like just an extra favor that's done for kids. You know what I mean? But it's not your money because we keep track of it. It seems like that's the more solid way to proceed in the future.
Right. It's credit that you build by putting something, but if that something doesn't happen, then, right, it's not necessarily money that's coming back. If we look at this as saying, we're going to look at this as a one measure in time and then make sure that gets stated clearly in a senior class meeting and part of all senior meetings, that go forward, or any with the even with freshman classes coming in to say that, this is the class money, and address that up front. So it's buyer beware to know that if you raise $600, there might be a possibility you never get to use it. One way you can look at it is that, it wasn't money out of your pocket that you lost. It's money that you raised that was going to help you. We just weren't able to run that activity to do that. So now it stays with the class. So you're fundraising for the class of 2020, but that money is actually, because you raised it, it's up your sole use to use it. But then if it's not able to get used, it then becomes class of 2020 money. So it's kind of flexible money, I suppose. And I think it's, we've done it that way for a long, long time. And I think, certainly we all know, we've probably been involved with things where, yes, you have some people that are real go-getters. They'll go out and they'll raise a lot of money. Others sit back and do nothing, but yet they reap the rewards of the work other people did. So I think that's why that was kind of put in to say that, I don't go out and raise $1,500. So then I still have to now pay $350 for a trip because my fundraising brought that cost down for everybody. So I think that's one way to try to do that. But if you're not able to use it, it remains class of 2000, whatever. So, I suppose if we felt this year were special circumstances and that's the way we should approach it, fine. We should certainly then make sure that's well known in the future, that was not precedent setting.
I think you said that very well too. I shared with Ron, from a personal aspect, the events of 9/11 forced some decisions on school districts that we weren't accustomed to making. I know from a personal standpoint, our international trip 20 years ago was canceled due to restrictions placed on travel. And at that time, we refunded to our students money that they had fundraised for an international trip. I think the events of this past year are similar to that. And I think that Mrs. Smith has a very legitimate concern. What I'd like to see is just to have an ongoing conversation with a group of parents, and hopefully we could come to an understanding that both sides are pleased with. I understand the concern with the policy, Todd. I fully understand it. But I think when policies are written, they don't take into consideration the events of 9/11 or the virus of 2020. I just think that we see beyond that and we don't take those events into consideration. So I think Mrs. Smith has a very legitimate concern, and I think it at least deserves more, more consultation with the legal aspect as much as, discussion amongst ourselves. I think it's something we owe it to them to look at to the best of our ability.
I agree.
So I'll ask the question, is that a decision this board is making, or is it a recommendation we're going to send on to the senior class and let them make it?
I think it's about
Well,
making
I don't
you
think
aware
that-
of what's going on, and yes, senior class should act on it. I do have, I have somebody that has texted me saying that the chat room feature has been disabled, but I'm talking with our gentleman at the Mohawk Rick indicating that it is active. So hopefully if people do want to try to chime in, continue to try to use the chat. I am told that it is active. Okay. Thank you, Derek.
Mr. Whitlock, this isn't something that needs to be decided tonight, though, is it?
No, I don't think so. I wanted to make, I was asked to bring it to your attention by the parent.
Right. So I would.
I appreciate your
I
feedback.
would support your initiative to continue to have dialogue.
Okay. All right.
Okay, all right,
I think that's it for the superintendent's report.
okay. All right, then, we'll move on. We're all set to move on, Ron?
Yes.
Okay. So, old business, we don't have anything. For new business, I'll read 9.1 to 9.7. as a consent agenda. If anyone has any questions or would like anything pulled for further discussion, please let me know. 9.1 is appointment of athletic director. 9.2 is holiday schedule for 12-month employees. 9.3 is resolution, organizational meeting. 9.4 is appointment of chairperson to report results of vote. 9.5 is resolution authorizing payment of bills approved by the claims auditor. 9.6 is approval of minutes of the May 26, 2020 meeting. And 9.7 is committee on special education recommendations. Does anyone have any questions for 9.1 to 9.7 or would like anything pulled for further discussion?
Dawn, before you go further, I just want to state that the minutes, I have a couple people spelling in their name incorrect, and I'm going to adjust that before the minutes are posted.
Oh, thank you so much. No problem. Thank you. Okay. Any other
Thanks,
comments or questions? Okay, then I'll need a motion to approve 9.1 to 9.7.
Approve. Motion.
Michelle, second is Tony.
Sure.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on to miscellaneous topics.
Ron, I had just one question. I don't understand the summer school component with special education. Does that mean we host summer school for special ed, or is that just tutoring?
Well, we're not hosting it, but it is open, and especially for the kids with special needs. Last week, Tracy Fascini, working with Terry Bentley as well, spent a lot of time with these end-of-year services for kids to get continue their education through the summer, students with special needs. They were given an offer from BOCES how that would look in a remote or online platform. And so what she did is she called every one of our parents and asked, would you like that online model or would you just like the services? You know, the online forced obviously the kid to be in front of a computer, which for some kids would be very difficult, but there's not a lot of options to try to educate some of these kids in a remote setting that have much more severe needs and services that they need. So she called them to say, you know, do they want that type of service or do they just want to have the outside services that they get, OT, PT, speech, those kind of things. So they gave parents the option of whether or not they wanted to enlist in that type of summer school program or not. And many elected not to and just get those other outside services. Then I want to say it was Friday, the governor came out and says summer school will be allowed in session certainly for these students. So that all of a sudden, all that work that was done now changes to say, okay, now do we have to go back and say we're going to send these kids to an in-person summer school? Not sure how that's going to look. Not sure what the requirements are as far as mask, social distancing, what that looks like, because we still don't know what that's going to look like come this fall. So maybe summer school will be a prelude to that and give us some insight on how the fall might look. So that's what summer school is, will look like. We're not hosting a summer school here, and I don't believe we're sending anybody to the and I don't believe that's open for summer school for regular ed, general ed kids.
But it is for special ed?
It is, yes.
Will we be transporting special ed students?
Those that wish to go, we will transport as we do typically.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you heard this, but the Syracuse Diocese made a news presented at the 6 o'clock news. All Catholic schools were opening as scheduled in September. Wow. That was from the Diocese of Syracuse. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
Okay. All right.
That's all I had.
Oh, well, thanks, Tony. Any other miscellaneous topics? Okay. Ron, do we have executive session tonight?
We don't, but before, I don't have anybody in the chat room.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I did go over public to be heard. I
Yep,
apologize.
I have, okay, I do have somebody that told me that the chat room wasn't working. They just telling me that it is. So if there's people out there listening and you'd like to be part of public to be heard or share something, please enter your chat now. We'll give you a few seconds to see if you have anything you'd like to share with us, and then we'll move on, Dawn.
Okay. And if I could just ask the board members kindly, if you have 5 minutes after the adjournment of the meeting, I just wanted to talk to you briefly about a couple of things.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not see anything in the chat room, so if you want to proceed, go ahead, Dawn.
Okay, so we have no executive session for the evening.
We do
Then
not.
I will just need a motion to adjourn then at 7:56.
So moved.
So move.
Tony, second.
Christine?
Christine, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks,
night.
Ron.
Have a
Good night.
good night.
Good night, Ron.
Okay.